There are many ways you could make a film on the Prime Minister. You could make a propagandist film, you could make a eulogistic film, or you can make a film downright critical, or you could make a straightforward film. This one is straightforward and plain journalistic. It provides insight into the life and times of a farmer who grew up in the tiny village of Haradanahalli in Hole Narsipur Taluk in district Hassan in Karnataka, a village of less than 900 people without a school that they could call its own, who at 64 occupies the highest office in the land and lives in that bungalow out there. A bungalow where the lights are often on till the very early hours of the morning, because this man is a workaholic. This is India, independent India in its 50th year, a land of opportunity where dreams come true, where anything but anything can happen. And this is the story of Haradanahalli, Deve Gowda, Prime Minister of India, the man who raised the tricolour on the Red Fort this year. Who is he? Where does he come from? And what is his vision of India?
मैं अपना त्यागपत्र राष्ट्रपति महोदय को देने जा रहा हूं।
And that was the shortest reign in the history of free India. The Bharatiya Janata Party, which emerged as the single largest party in the wake of the 1996 parliamentary elections and was invited by President Shankar Dayal Sharma to form the government at the centre, gave up its futile attempt to stay in power by trying to cobble together a majority in the Lok Sabha.
I am happy I have regained my freedom.
After 13 long days of trying very hard, but there were not many parties ready to join the Hindutva brigade. So the next question was, who will now come to power? What political combination will forge an alliance that can give India a stable regime at the centre? Will the Congress take its claim as the second largest party in Parliament to form the next government? Can it muster up the requisite numbers? Or can the Janata Dal spearhead a secular front along with its allies? If it can, will the communist parties join that government? Or will they merely support it from outside? Will the Congress extend its support to such a government? Will it join it? And most crucial of all was the question, what will be the role of all those powerful regional parties that had won their own mandates at the state level? Chandrababu Naidu's Telugu Desam, G.K. Mopanar's Tamil Manila Congress, K. Karunanidhi's DMK, Prafulla Mahanta's Assam Gana Parishad. What do they want? Who will they support? And in what manner? Questions, more unanswered questions. And all because the Indian electorate, in its wisdom, had chosen not to give anyone a clear mandate to govern. The BJP were claiming 23% of the votes, the Congress 26%. The regional parties together, some pundits claimed, had cornered more than 30%. But no one knew for sure, because everything was in a flux. Alliances, allegiances, claims, counterclaims. And right in the center was the simple question every Indian asked. Who will be our next Prime Minister? Who indeed? Vishwanath Pratap Singh? But he had already retired from politics. Jyoti Boshu? But would his party leaders say yes? Lalu Prasad Yadav? But what about the fodder scam in Bihar? Biju Patnaik? But there are corruption cases against him in his home state. Narasimha Rao? But his party has ruled out joining the government. There was furious speculation. No one quite knew what could happen. Yet, simply, and you could almost say quietly, the United Front government assembled itself and unanimously chose its leader for the nation's top job. On the 1st of June 1996, Haradanahalli Deve Gowda was sworn in as India's 13th Prime Minister. The 13th Prime Minister after a 13-day government.
I, H.D. Deve Gowda, do swear in the name of God that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by law established.
Did you ever dream of becoming Prime Minister of India?
Never in my life.
When did the possibility first strike you?
Never. It was only after I came to Delhi on the call given by the party to attend this political affairs committee meeting, I persuaded VP Singh Sahab, I persuaded Mr. Jyoti Babu. And at one stage, I requested my friends, let us support the Congress from outside. There is nothing hide and seek for me. Because I am anti-BJP. Let me be very, very frank on this issue.
What did you feel when your name was proposed?
No, I tried to persuade them not to insist on my name. Because my stay as Chief Minister in Karnataka is only 18 months. The mandate of my people was to run the state for 5 years. I want to see that Karnataka should have all-round development.
That you could do as Prime Minister as well.
No, I can't. I can't give any extra weightage to one state. I should treat all states equal. And the states which are backward, I should take care of those states. They have been looked after with a step-motherly treatment. I want to take them to the mainstream.
Yes, India found its new leader. South Block found a new occupant. Racecourse Road got a new tenant. But for Deve Gowda, better known as Maninamaga, son of the soil, the road to the Prime Minister's office was not as smooth as this ride on Rajpath seems to suggest. Remember roots? To find the roots of India's new Prime Minister, you have to travel a long way back, on a dirt track across the picturesque Karnataka countryside, into the past, down the very route he took. Several hours of driving down bumpy Kacha roads brings you to Haradanahalli. This is the village where Deve Gowda was born 64 years ago.
ನೋಡಿ ಸರ್, ನಮ್ಮ ದೇವೇಗೌಡರಿಗೆ ತಂದೆಗೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಆಗ ಈ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗೋಸ್ಕರವಾಗಿ
Deve Gowda's father didn't have children for many years. He took oath before God that if he got children, he would construct the Sanctum Sanctorum of the temple. Then Deve Gowda was born. From that time, all his family members come here every Monday to offer their prayers.
ಮತ್ತವ್ರ ಮಕ್ಕಳೆಲ್ಲ ವಾರ ನಿತ್ಯ ಸೋಮವಾರ ಬಂದು ಪೂಜೆ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ.
Haradanahalli barely consisted of a few hundred people. There was no electricity, no school, no post office, no hospital, not even a qualified doctor in those days. There was no railway station nearby, not even a bus stop. The family lived together as a typical joint family, as people do in most parts of rural India, and somehow managed to eke out their living by ploughing a small patch of land which they called their own. Much of it remains exactly as it was 64 years ago. It is almost as if time has stood still. There are barely 150 homes here and 900 people, all of them simple rural folk. This is the house where Devamma, who recently passed away, gave birth to her first son. This is where the Prime Minister's brother still lives. So do other close relatives. It is in these rooms that he spent his early childhood, working with other family members in the fields, even as he went to a small village school that had just started. In fact, you could barely call it a school. It was where the village kids went to stay out of trouble. The locals in Haradanahalli say that the village remains almost exactly as it was when young Deve Gowda was growing up, except perhaps for the motorcycle parked outside his house and the helipad that is being built to make it easier for the Prime Minister to visit his village and his family out there.
From the very beginning, he is a simple person. He was never extravagant. He always says that extravagance can never be permanent. One should always be simple and should not show off.
ಮನೆ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಅವ್ರು ತುಂಬ ಸರಳ ಜೀವನ ಅಂದರೆ ತುಂಬ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಇವತ್ತು ಇರ್ತಾನೆ ನಾಳೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾನೆ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಮುಖ್ಯ, ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಸರಳ.
He believes in a simple lifestyle. He often tells us that life has its ups and downs. But what is important is that we should be able to face reality.
ಇಂಥ ಹಳ್ಳಿಗಾಡಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಟ್ಟಿ A man from our village has risen to become the Prime Minister. We are proud of him.
"50 years back, this old building served as the village primary school. It was here that the young Deve Gowda learnt his 3 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic. It has now yielded way to a full-fledged school where the village kids go today.
I used to beat him for his aloofness. I wanted to teach him to be brave and mix with all the other students. And he was not mixing with all the other students. He was only aloof.
In the 1930s, when Deve Gowda was growing up, going to school meant walking 3 kilometers to another village, Halekote. This is where he enrolled after learning the basics in Hardanahalli. It meant a 5-kilometer walk every day, but this left him unfazed.
To 4th class in the primary school, I used to go about 2.5 miles in those days. And even for drinking water, 6 months in a year in summer seasons, we used to go to the hillock areas where small ponds we used to dig and take water by small pots and fill up the big pots. Whole night we used to sit there. I myself has done that. We used to bring water in night times, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
The village of Halekote has something else to remember the Prime Minister by. At 30, when Deve Gowda passed out from the Lakshma Venkataswamy Polytechnic and became a PWD contractor, he built this tank and this canal. Everyone you meet in the village remembers this. This is where Deve Gowda went to study, where he picked up his technical knowledge. This is the Polytechnic where he studied for his diploma in civil engineering in 1952.
ದೇವೇಗೌಡರು ನಮ್ಮ ಸಹಪಾಠಿಗಳು. ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಓದ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಓದಿಕೊಂಡು ಇಲ್ಲಿವೇ ಅವರು ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು
I was Deve Gowda's classmate in the primary school. Deve Gowda was the class monitor. He went to Halekote Middle School, where once again he was made class monitor. Since then, he started to organize people.
ಅವ್ರ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ DC ಮಗ ಅಂತೆ ಹುಡುಗ. ಅವನು ನಾನೇ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ಗೆ ಒಂಥರ ಲೀಡರು ಹಾಗೆ ಹೀಗೆ ಅಂತ ಹುಡುಗ ತುಂಬ ಒಂಥರ ಇದಂತೆ.
In the college elections, a boy who was the son of the DC acted as if he was the leader of the college. He challenged my father to contest the college elections. My father accepted his challenge and said that he will win. And he did.
ನಾವು ಪ್ರೈಮರಿ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಓದ್ತಾ ಇರಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮೂರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಸರಿ ಕಾಲರ ಆಯಿತು. ಆ ಕಾಲರ ಆದಾಗ ಹಿಂದೆಲ್ಲ ಏನು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರು ಅಂದರೆ ನಾವು ಕಣಂಗೆ ನಮಗೆಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ನೂ ಅದು ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ತೀರಾ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಮ್ಮನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಬೆಳಗಿನ ಜಾವ.
When I was studying in primary school, cholera had erupted in the village. We were taken away from the village. The villagers were very superstitious and wanted to vacate the village. Deve Gowda tried to educate them. He brought doctors and got all the villagers inoculated against the disease.
This little-known town has suddenly shot into national limelight ever since the Maninamaga became Prime Minister. It is not difficult to see why he is called Maninamaga, son of the soil. His roots as a farmer's son run very deep. In his childhood, he ploughed the fields with the others. Throughout his young days, he tended to gardens and orchards in the neighborhood. And even after his diploma in engineering, he decided to stay in this village and devote his time to agriculture. The village is called Padavarahippe, and he lived in this house for several years, where he nursed this huge coconut grove.
Till I became the leader of the opposition, I used to work myself in the land. My wife, even after I became the opposition leader, she used to stay in the village to work in the land. We love our bit of, not only the land, it is not emotionally attached, it is our profession.
Who was your political role model?
No role model business. I am my own role model.
the experience is a better school.
How much time do you give to your family?
I don't know. I can't say. My wife is staying in village. At times she comes. She even now goes to the village.
Do you find enough time for your sons?
May I tell you very sincerely, if I say this, people will not believe. I never expected my son to come to politics. Never.
Did you protest when he did?
He became member of the Jilla Panchayat in 1985. Entire Jilla Panchayat members unanimously passed a resolution to make him as the president of the Jilla Panchayat Parishad. I said no. I made a scheduled caste as the Jilla Parishad president. It is on record. And today when J.H. Patel wants to make my son as the minister, I told him not to do it at any cost. And even another son who became the MP, he was doing some small business. For 10 days, every day near my house, more than thousands of people. Give your son.
Did you agree reluctantly or did you agree?
It was hell of a job. They cut out of my feet, they cried. No option. So the problem is, I do not want to project my family members in public life.
Maybe this is what makes Deve Gowda different from earlier prime ministers. The fact that he is a son of the soil, Manina Maga.
Well, he has been projecting himself as a humble farmer, to quote him rather, as a humble farmer. But I think the man should not go on bluffing people about his humble origins.
मंडन मगा के माने जो है 90 करोड़ इंसान भी जो है भारत के पुत्र ही है, लेकिन जो इंसान जमीन पे काम करता है नंगे पांव, जिसको रहने के लिए छत नहीं है, खाने के लिए 2 वक्त की रोटी नहीं है, लेकिन सारे देश को खाना खिला रहा है, इसके बावजूद खुद उसके परिवार उसके बच्चे भूखे हैं, वो लोग जिनको चाहे हम किसान कहें, क्या खेती के मजदूर कहें या गांव में रहने वाले कहें, इनके लिए वो ज्यादा सोचता है.
Politics, campaigns, elections, leadership, power. The 1950s offered an opportunity to young Deve Gowda to make politics into a full-time career. He joined the Congress in 1953. It was a grassroots relationship that lasted 1 full decade, till 1962, the year in which Deve Gowda made his debut in the Karnataka Assembly at the age of 29. From 1967 till 1983, for 3 consecutive terms, he represented the rural constituency of Holenarasipur, and is still remembered in his role as leader of the opposition from 1972 to 1979. It was his persistent opposition to the policies of the Congress at that time which found him behind bars during the dark days of the emergency. From an ordinary grassroots politician to a member of the State Assembly, Deve Gowda eventually joined the State Cabinet. As Minister of Irrigation and Public Works, he tried his best to do the job well, but there were too many hurdles. In 1987, he resigned to protest against insufficient allocation of funds for irrigation projects in the countryside. He entered Parliament through Hassan and brought many state issues up front. 1994 saw Deve Gowda climb a rung higher when, as president of the State Janata Dal, he led his party to a resounding victory in the assembly elections and became the 14th Chief Minister of Karnataka on the 11th of December 1994.
Actually, he wanted to do some good work for Karnataka. On that basis, he became chief. That was his achievement. That was his challenge. I wonder whether I should. ಏನಾದ್ರು ಮಾಡಿ ರಾಜ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಚೀಫ್ ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಆಗೋದು ಹಠ ಇತ್ತು, ಚಾಲೆಂಜ್ ಇತ್ತು, ಡೆಡಿಕೇಶನ್ ಇತ್ತು. How many days I been not important. How I was in the power. How I have done the good work when I was in the power.
In less than 2 years as Chief Minister, Deve Gowda surprised political observers with his canny 2-pronged strategy. On the one hand, he focused on strengthening Karnataka's traditional agricultural base, something he felt very strongly about. On the other, he went out and marketed Karnataka as a brand new investment destination, for industrial capital. In fact, he was the first chief minister to attend Davos in January 1995. It was a smart strategic move and won him support from both sides. The farmers were impressed. So were the industrialists. Both felt he was looking after their interests. And Karnataka, under his chief ministership, became one of the top 3 states in India to attract investment. It was in the midst of his tenure that the Lok Sabha elections came. And suddenly, the farmer from Haradanahalli, who was quite happy as chief minister of Karnataka, found himself catapulted onto the national stage as a consensus candidate for the top job, Prime Minister of India, heading a minority coalition government where most of his energies are now trained towards fighting out fires and managing the inherent contradictions of the United Front.
सरकार चल रही है, यही उल्लेखनीय है। 13 पार्टियों की सरकार अंतर विरोधों से ग्रस्त, नीतियों के मामले में भी परस्पर विरोधी बयान, कोई उल्लेखनीय काम तो अभी तक नहीं हुआ है।
The coalition is a conglomerate that everybody knows. It has many kinks. That also everybody knows. Somebody talks of price of rice, somebody talks of water resources, somebody talks of something else. Somebody talks of corrupt practices and how to correct the corrupt practices, whether it is south or north or wherever. Now, he is a man who is steering through it. In my opinion, quite ably, by looking at the previous run of prime ministers, I would say quite ably.
Ideologically, there is no homogeneity. Secondly, programmatically, there is no agreement. Thirdly, in terms of participation, there are reservations. Fourthly, decisions are taken where people who may not be in agreement with those decisions are kept ignorant of those decisions. For instance, the Home Minister. The Home Minister did not know about this special privileges that were going to be, or the largesse that was going to be distributed to the former prime ministers, and with the creation of a new caste of citizens called former prime ministers. He didn't know about it. Decisions are taken where there are ministers who are not aware of what the other hand is doing. So in that kind of a situation, this combination of 13 is, in my view, a totally non-performing one.
The handicaps that this government faces are essentially in the nature of the coalitional character of this government, which in one sense represents a handicap if you see it as a departure from a single party rule or a couple of parties getting together to rule. But on the other hand, I think it's also a reflection of an advantage. The advantage being, with so many different parties coming together, there is already a process of inbuilt consensus that is taking place before the government even decides to take a step. So it is not as though a consensus is being built after a governmental decision, but even prior to that, and which I think is very healthy for democracy.
You have a man who doesn't know anything outside Karnataka as the Prime Minister. He's completely out of depth when he discusses national problems.
For the first time, you have a Prime Minister who's been relatively unknown than the ones we've had in the past. And this therefore demonstrates that the individual, so to speak, the importance of the individual is on the decline.
इस देश में जनता से दूरी बढ़ाकर रहना ही राज चलाने की परंपरा रही है। भाषा, लैंग्वेज, तरीका, तौर ऐसा बना के रखा कि जनता डरे, जनता दहशत में आए। यानी एक आचरण शासक का ऐसा होना चाहिए कि वो जनता में लगे कि वो राजा है। आया है तो उसका रुतबा, यानी रुतबे का जब तक सवाल है तो हमने रुतबे को घटाया है और जानबूझ के घटाया है।
The new Prime Minister has been on the move from the very beginning. He is not averse to reminding us that he is the first Prime Minister in 9 years to visit Kashmir, which is indeed a fact. And all through his new discovery of India, he has been besieged by a curious audience, wanting to know what this farmer from Karnataka has to offer to the country.
What the nation would perhaps like to know is how do you cope with such a complex coalition with so many partners, so many allies of completely different ideological persuasions?
See, this is the atmosphere where the wisdom of a politician lies. When a complex situation is before the country, how to manage with this complex situation is an issue before the country and before me. I cannot say whether I will be able to come up to the expectation of the people facing all these challenges. The time is the answer.
But they call you Mananamaga, which means son of the soil. You obviously will have some very homegrown, some very innovative strategies by which you hope to cope with the complexities of these problems.
It is not the question of any innovative plans or programs or strategies. See, if you know the geographical condition of this country, basically India lives in the rural area. More than 70% of the population lives in rural India. Unfortunately, after 48 years of independence, after completion of 5-year plans and 4 annual plans, we are unable to cope up with the basic problems of the rural masses.
Why is that? Why have we failed?
I do not want to post-mortem the past mistakes, or I do not want to criticize the decision taken by our the Prime Ministers. They thought giving more emphasis on industrialization. Their vision was, at that time, we can compete with the Western countries. The situation of this country compared to the Western countries is totally different. Here, more than 65% of the total population directly depend on agriculture. Take Western countries, the population who depend on agriculture will not cross more than 3%, 4%, maximum 6% in some countries. This is the basic difference. From that angle, we should try to analyze the mistakes that has been done in the past. In my opinion, we must now change our direction.
What is your vision of this change?
My vision of the change is the people who have been denied, the people who have been sidelined in our developmental activities, those people should be taken care of. That doesn't mean they are only in the rural areas. Even in the urban areas, I will tell you very frankly, if you go to any metropolitan cities like Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta, Bangalore, Madras, any cities, you can see more than 40% of the people today have no roof. What we have done?
But Mr. Prime Minister, government after government have come. They have all voiced this concern.
That's why I said we must learn things from the past mistakes. We have tried to identify some of the major areas where things went wrong. Issues after issues. For example, the Narmada project issue. This Sardar Sarovar project, from last 3 years, the matter was lingering. I took a decision which is accepted by all the 4 chief ministers, and the decision what I have given was welcomed by all the 4 chief ministers, and the work has started now. On the Kashmir issue, 9 years, no chief minister, prime minister has gone. I went there to know the problems, how best we can able to try to create confidence in the mind of the common man. And in another issue like Tehri Dam, 73 days, Sundarlal Bagunaji was on an indefinite hunger strike. I tried my best to convince him and say that he should break the indefinite hunger strike. With the cooperation of some well-wishers, I was able to succeed. My first concern was, on a time-bound program, it should not spill over to 9th plan, 10th plan, 11th plan, 13th plan. No. There must be a time-bound program to provide certain basic amenities.
What is your idea of a time-bound program?
That is why I want to confine myself the basic needs, essential needs, which is very essential. Drinking water, yes, nobody can deny. At least a village would have a connection, a communication connection to the main highway to transport all its agricultural produce. At least a primary school. In Uttar Pradesh, where 7 prime ministers have been produced, if about 46,000 villages have no schools, then what can I say? If 103 villages, 103,000 villages, including some hamlets, if there are no drinking water, then what I could say? Are they not human beings? If people have lost faith, lost confidence, whichever political party may have come to power, our fate is like this. Nobody is going to take care of our problem. This is the situation we have created. So unless we improve the situation, whatever may be our democratic system, if that system has to be further strengthened, if that system has to regain the confidence of the people must feel that in the system we have also got something which was denied all these years.
Deve Gowda has beaten back many anticipated fears. Many expected him as a farmer to take populist steps, like increasing agricultural subsidies hugely. The presence of the CPI in the government triggered off fears that the pace of economic liberalization will slacken. Others expected him to be weak and indecisive, given the pulls and pressures of so many parties, some of them with completely contradictory ideologies.
Here you have a government which came into existence on the basis of a slogan. The slogan being that we are going to give you a secular government, because there are certain others who should actually be perhaps at the helm of affairs who are non-secular. So we are giving you a secular government. So you gave a slogan first. Second, you formed a government without any mandate on a program, on policies, or on the direction that the country should take. Third, you brought together people who had gone into the elections totally confronting the other side.
जो ये साझा सरकार है, ये अनूठा प्रयोग है और हमारे देश के अनुरूप है. इसमें और 89 की सरकार में इतना ही अंतर है कि पहले भारतीय जनता पार्टी का समर्थन हासिल था। लोग यूनाइटेड फ्रंट जिसको आज कहते हैं, संयुक्त मोर्चा, वो पहले राष्ट्रीय मोर्चा और वाम मोर्चा कहलाता था, वो अब यूनाइटेड फ्रंट कहलाता है। पहले बीजेपी का साथ था, अब कांग्रेस का समर्थन हासिल है।
I am surprised, and I must say I am pleasantly surprised that Deve Gowda is showing the grit of not a run-of-mill politician, but the grit that comes from conviction. He sustains the government by discussing and solving problems of the component parties, stands firm when he talks of fascist forces.
वो जो कहते हैं वो करते हैं, जो करते नहीं थे वो कहते नहीं थे.
There were still others who thought he would have no option but to pull back on every CBI investigation to keep the Congress on his side. Just as many senior leaders of the front itself thought that he would be a puppet in their hands. But Deve Gowda, even his critics admit, although off the record, has proved to be his own man.
संभल कर चल रहे हैं, कांग्रेस पर निर्भर हैं, कठिनाइयां हैं उनकी.
कई तरह के लोग इस सरकार के बारे में आशंका व्यक्त करते हैं वो निर्मूल साबित होंगी, और निर्मूल साबित इसलिए होंगी कि गठबंधन की पहली सरकारों का अनुभव है. उस अनुभव के आधार पर इस गठबंधन की या संयुक्त मोर्चा की सरकार के बारे में तुलना नहीं करना चाहिए, क्योंकि पहली गठबंधन की जितनी सरकारें थीं उन सरकारों में या उस गठबंधन में कई प्रधानमंत्री की उम्मीदवार होते थे. पहली गठबंधन की सरकार है जिसमें प्रधानमंत्री पद का दूसरा कोई उम्मीदवार नहीं.
The first task of the new government was to present the budget for 1996-97. Everyone, from the common man to business tycoons, from foreign institutional investors to international banks, everyone wanted to see the directions this would take. For that, they knew, would provide clues to the new government's priorities. They expected many pulls and pressures. But like the common minimum program, which was quickly and smartly put together by the leaders of the different parties in the front, the budget presented by Finance Minister P. Chidambaram to the Parliament on the 22nd of July was surprisingly easy and to the point.
बजट के पहले ही पेट्रोलियम पदार्थ के दाम बढ़ा दिए, बाद में ये एहसास कराने की कोशिश की कि ज़्यादा बोझा नहीं लादा गया है, लेकिन पेट्रोल और पेट्रोलियम पदार्थ के दामों में वृद्धि, और वो भी बजट के थोड़े दिन पहले, वही कांग्रेस का तरीका है. रेल किराए में और भाड़े में भी वृद्धि हुई है, तो कुल मिलाकर महंगाई तो बढ़ी है, और खेती की उपेक्षा हुई है, रक्षा के लिए पर्याप्त धन नहीं है, रोजगार के अवसर कैसे बढ़ेंगे इसका सरकार के पास कोई उत्तर नहीं है. बजट इस संबंध में मौन है.
But the watchdogs of Indian media did not seem to agree with Mr. Vajpayee. The Economic Times called it a Manmohan-like budget, plus or minus 2%. The Times of India felt that the ship of the Indian economy was in capable hands. Indian Express said it was a reaffirmation that reforms and deregulation are here to stay. The Hindu called it a judicious formulation. Even New York's Wall Street Journal had the headline, Indian budget shows reforms on track. Yes, reforms remained intact. Zero-tax companies were brought into the net. Customs and excise duties were reduced. The income tax exemption limit was not raised, but standard deductions were for millions of salaried people. Fertilizer subsidy increased, but at the same time, the government unveiled a serious program to give a major thrust to infrastructure development. It may not have set the Ganga on fire, but the budget showed that this government had a specific perspective on how the future was to look.
How do you see the opportunity, or let's say, how do you reconcile these wide-ranging poverty alleviation schemes on one hand with the somewhat hard-hearted continuance of economic reforms, structural reforms?
which will bound to hurt the very segments you're talking about?
No, I'm not going to accept that position. The economic reforms are not going to hurt the section which I have now discussed. Due to this new economic philosophy or the new economic liberalization, the benefit should penetrate to the lowest level. That has not taken place. We are talking in the air about the economic reforms. What is the investment we are able to get? Private investments, either domestic investment or the global investment, compared to China, is zero. Nothing.
Why do you think adequate foreign investment, adequate foreign direct investment, rather than into our stock markets, is not coming as much as you feel they ought to?
There are two factors according to me. One is we speak in different voice. China is not like that. Number two, our delay in making decisions is one of the major factors. Any investor who wants to come to this country look towards two things. Why he should go from pillar to post. And the basic infrastructure, what is required, we should make necessary arrangement.
That will take time and lots of
I
money.
do agree. Any industry which is going to be, if I give the license today, it is not going to start production tomorrow. It may take 3 years. It may take 4 years. By that time, can I not provide the infrastructure? By power, water. See, these are certain areas where we must create a healthy atmosphere, an atmosphere of confidence. In my opinion, whatever may be the political present scenario, we have created that there will be no question of any change
in policy,
in our investment policy. But little cautious steps will be taken in the area of agriculture and the area where it hurts our labor population.
One more doubt that they may perhaps have is questions about the durability of this government with so many complex forces at work.
See,
how do you see that?
I am not worried about the durability of the government.
But the investor is.
Just one second. The message what I should give to the whole world is that economic reforms is irreversible. That message is sufficient to create the confidence for the investors. Which government is opposed to economic reforms? Is BJP government opposed?
No.
Is the communist government opposed?
Substantially no.
The DMK or the NRDMK government or the Telugu Desam government? Which government opposed the economic liberalization in total? No. So that's why I said whether the durability of this government is for 5 years or 2 years or 3 years, the message what we have given to the whole world community is that under no circumstances India will not back out from the present reforms. That is number one. And one more thing I would like to say, what the atmosphere I have created in hardly 18 months in Karnataka, the question of delay. Now, no question of withholding any project, whether it is power projects, whether it is project related to major industries, any project should be cleared within 3 months.
Infrastructural project.
Yes, even
consumer
the
goods.
sugar mills. I'm seriously thinking to delicense it. I don't want unnecessary harassment, or the investor should feel hurt, feel bad about the way in which things are going on. I don't want to allow that. That's why I removed the powers of the Prime Minister with regards to foreign investment
Promotion board.
promotion board. My only object is to see that the speedy execution of these infrastructural projects.
But why then is money not coming in as fast as it should? As you yourself...
But just give me at least 6 months' time. You will see how we are going to succeed in our attempt.
If I were to ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, are there any areas of failure that you feel you have had to cope with? Any embarrassments?
May, with all sincerity at my command, I would like to say, I have never come across with any experience of failure. Even on the day when I took a decision to increase the petroleum product price, it was not done in a hasty manner. We have discussed threadbare. Threadbare we have discussed the implications.
Yet many of your coalition partners protested very vehemently.
Sure, they have got every right. They have got every right to say. My own party people have said. I am not going, because they don't know the background, unless I explained on the floor of the House. When the cabinet took a decision, I cannot make it public. Under what circumstances the cabinet has taken the decision. I can't reveal everything.
But don't you feel such a decision hurts India, hurts the poor of India, hurts the very constituency you were talking about?
I do agree to some section of the people it hurts. You mean to say those people who are using kerosene have been hurt by my decision?
No.
Who are going to use kerosene?
The poor.
The poorest of the poor. Who are going to use petroleum products?
Everybody, because that will drive up prices.
Average people, middle class people.
It will drive up prices across the spectrum.
Please hear me. Give me a 1 minute time. An individual who owns a two-wheeler, yes, he has to pay 3 rupees more. But at least he has got some economic strength. Whether his income may be 5,000 rupees, 3,000 rupees, or 6,000 rupees, or 10,000 rupees. But a person who uses kerosene, in so many cases, they have no opportunity for have 2 squares meals a day. Compared to all other countries except United States of America, ours is the cheapest in petroleum product and HSD oil. Cheapest. In Sri Lanka it is 192 per cylinder. I am giving at 122 rupees, 123. Yes, my sisters may abuse me. I have increased 26 rupees. But with folded hands, I pray them realize the problem of the country. If you want to build India strong, we should not depend at every time on the foreign aid and assistance. Self-reliance is what?
But the interim period will hurt the poorest of the poor the most, because you are going to cut down more and more subsidies. Like in petroleum products, elsewhere, you will cut out subsidies.
Even today, the petroleum product subsidy is 9,000 crores. Even today, after this price hike, Even today, after the price hike, I am giving 62 rupees 55 paisa per cylinder, per gas cylinder. And even today, after this price hike, 4,700 crores is my deficit in oil pool account. Please note this.
Why didn't your preceding government take this decision, unpleasant decision?
I do not want to again go back to the past history with making any post-mortem. Why should I have been asked to run the government. The responsibility was on my shoulders. I do not want to run away like a coward. I want to face facts. I want to tell the people these are the ground realities, factual position. And tell my people with folded hands. This is why I have taken this decision. Please cooperate with me. That is the only thing left to me. We talk of so much our heritage, Indian philosophy. What is that? When your own neighbor is suffering with such a miserable condition, should you not part something if you can? If a two-wheeler owner, if he can pay 3 rupees for those people who are suffering today, who lives in slums, who are not 2 square meals a day, to provide certain basic things.
The average Indian, I don't think, has any problems, Mr. Prime Minister, in paying for this. His fear is that a vast sum of this money is just looted from the national exchequers.
I would like to reiterate once again, as Prime Minister of this country, if I do wrong, let them hang. I am answerable to the legislature. I am answerable to the people of this country. Let them hang me. It is their money. I am only a trustee. I am the custodian with their mandate.
Look at the number of scams and scandals your own CBI is investigating today.
I do not want to go back to the past history and let law take its own course. Why should I worry about that? I am only answering to my government. How can I answer to the past? The law of the land will take its own course. Did I stop any investigation? Who am I? Why should I?
Among the first achievements of the new Prime Minister and the government he leads are CTBT, where India showed the world that it cannot be taken for granted; Kashmir, where elections will set into motion the process of normalcy; new style insurance, allowing the investigating agencies a free hand; opening up a dialogue with all shades of political opinion. Prime Minister Deve Gowda works till late at night and is back at his desk at the crack of dawn, meeting people, giving frank opinions, never hesitating to call a spade a spade. But what impresses everyone the most is his ability to cut through ideological doublespeak and make friends across the political spectrum, irrespective of party affiliations, irrespective of beliefs, convictions, attitudes. His habits are frugal. He sleeps for only 4 hours at night and is what you could describe as a workaholic.
What do you read?
I read earlier, about 25 years back, I used to spend a lot of time for reading. Now, where is the time for me? After I became leader of the opposition, I used to go to the bed at 2:30 in the night, 3 o'clock.
How much time do you spend learning Hindi?
Now, I am unable to spend more time, just half an hour, 45 minutes. On tour, it's not possible. But I will learn Hindi, I'll assure you. And once I take some determined to this thing, I am a man of that background. I will.
Do you watch movies?
No time for me to watch movies, or even Doordarshan. Your today's interview, if it comes tomorrow, on what day it is going to relay, I am not going to sit before the TV.
Do you believe in God?
Yes, that's my heritage. That's that I have inherited from my parents.
What is the kind of God you believe in?
That is, morning I will pray God to do good work every day. I don't want to commit any sin in my life. I don't pray long life. Whenever he calls, I prepare to go. But my only concern is, on day-to-day work, what I pass orders in my hands, it should not harm the people. That's all they are the real gods whom I am serving. What I told you right now about those people who are the worst sufferers in the society, if I serve them, if they feel here is a government for the first time who is taking care of us, then the real mukti I will get. That's my philosophy. I don't want the blessings of any Babas. The real mukti I will get only if I serve those people.
Deve Gowda combines amazing political sophistication with his so-called earthiness that is often misjudged as naivety. As Chief Minister of Karnataka, he was able to balance his self-confessed support for agricultural subsidies under attack from the International Monetary Fund with wide-scale economic reforms. That is his strength, to combine ostensibly opposing perspectives. He manages contradictions with rare confidence and refuses to take absolute positions on any issue. He is never rigid and is always open to the other point of view. It is this openness of style that has brought together so many streams of political thought, so many different ideological tributaries that make up this curious and complex coalition. A government where everyone has a different background, a different history, and yet are committed together to create one organic vision of India. But as the coalition moves from honeymoon to hard reality, it is to be seen whether India can go beyond the narrow expectations of different castes, different communities, different political parties and persuasions. Because India is yearning for oneness, for change, for growth, for development. In Hardanahalli Deve Gowda, it has perhaps found a leader who lends its aspirations a new voice. The voice of tomorrow.
And that was Hardanahalli Deve Gowda, a man not many Indians knew, nor would have recognized, till he emerged on center stage of Indian politics and became Prime Minister of India. Even today, not many people north of the Vindhyas would recognize his face, but that has not stopped him. That has not stopped him from taking decisions that will change India as we know it. He has put out a radical budget, invited foreign investment, and decided to continue the economic reforms initiated by his predecessor. And he has also announced the likely formation of a new state, the state of Uttarakhand, as well as risked criticism by announcing several pro-poor measures that will cost the national exchequer. He has a tough, complex, unenviable job ahead of him, a job made doubly complex by the fact that he heads a minority government in parliament. It would be